Okay, let's continue.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Zulu, just to finish off the first topic that we were dealing with, if you would look at bundle FS1 at page 210, we're going to return to the answers that you gave in writing to the questions that were put to you by the Commission investigators. And if I can take you to paragraph 2.15, please, on page 210. The document being referred to there is the motivation presented to you at your request on the 27th of November 2014 by Mr. Mukesi. And in 2.15.1, you were asked, what will the cost be of the project? And your answer was 850 Rand per house excluding VAT. That's consistent with your previous answers.
Yes, Chair, and that's an answer that was provided by the Head of Department of Free State. So that
yes, that's the information that was given to you?
From that, yes.
In order to persuade you to make a decision?
In order to agree with the revised business plan?
Yes.
Yes.
And then 2.15.2, as per document 8, what service will they be rendering? The specific services as recorded at pages 3 and 4. And those are the services adjacent to the bullets that we went through before the long adjournment.
Yes, again provided by the HOD of Free State.
Yes. Information provided to you on which you relied.
It was not a complete information at this stage, Mr. Pretorius. Let me maybe state that this was the first motivation that was submitted, which I needed at a high level to agree on the revised business plan. Yes. So there could have been more information that the HOD would have at his disposal that may have not been part of this first information.
No, I understand.
Yes.
But on the face of it, what we see before us is a request by you on the 26th of November for a particular motivation. You receive it and you demand it by the 27th. You receive it by the 27th, and that contains certain information which is communicated to you. That much is clear.
Now, the point I'm making, Chair, is that the information provided by the HOD as per the revised business plan may not have all the information about the project itself. But this is the information that was given to me at a face value.
Yes, so, but I think the point that Mr. Pretorius seeks to make and wants to see what comment you have on it is that you asked for certain information.
Yes.
This is what was provided.
Correct, Chair.
And if what was provided was not adequate for your purposes to make whatever decision you needed to make, you would indicate.
In any event, Chairperson, once the plan is revised, there are then other follow-ups.
Yes.
Where you then, in any event, have a responsibility to check the entire business plan.
Yes.
So the point I'm making, this could have not been the only information that overall was available. So I'm trying to make that to be clearly understood.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Pretorius.
All right. You required information, the information was given to you, but finally you gave your approval.
Just repeat that.
You required information.
Yes.
The information was given to you. We've been through that information.
Yes.
You must have taken that information into account in finally giving your approval.
Correct. Correct.
In summary then, in relation to the questions that we have been dealing with and your evidence, Mr. Zulu, your intervention or your approval in your capacity as Director General National Human Settlements was necessary and approval was given.
It's a required process, as I explained earlier, Chair.
I guess your answer is yes. Because they couldn't proceed without your approval.
Yes, that's what I said earlier. That's what I'm trying to say. I've explained how the business plans at national level work, and in the process of changes, what is also required in terms of the process.
Yes, no, that's fine. I think
Yeah.
Mr. Pretorius just wanted you to confirm his understanding that your approval was required, was necessary, and it was
yes.
granted.
Correct, Chair.
I'd like to move to a different topic, if I may, Mr. Zulu, and that is Blackhead's appointment. And by
which page?
Blackhead, I mean
On
Blackhead
which page,
Consulting Pty Limited.
On
I'll
which
come
page
to-
are we at?
I'm sorry?
On
You
which
can
page
put
are
that
we
away
at?
for the moment.
Sorry?
please. You can put that away, that document.
Oh, okay.
So I'd like to move to a different topic, if I may. And that concerns the procurement process that preceded the appointment of the joint venture in the Free State. But it's necessary to go back a stage to what happened in Gauteng. The issue that needs clarification is the nature of Blackhead's appointment in Gauteng. And by Blackhead, I mean Blackhead Consulting Pty Limited, not the joint venture. Do you recall that Blackhead Consulting Pty Limited provided services to the Gauteng Department of Human Settlements?
As was informed and requested by the HOD of Free State, yes.
Yes. And we'll come to the
The
correspondence.
request, Chair, just to be specific, the request that was made by the HOD to revise the business plan was in line with the work that Blackhead was doing in Gauteng. So that's the context I'm giving.
Yes, sure. Well, the correspondence that we're going to go through in a minute, Mr. Zulu, is not entirely clear. And let me just ask if you can recall. The appointment of Blackhead Consulting Pty Limited in Gauteng, what was that appointment? Was it appointment to a panel of service providers? Was it appointment arising out of the panel of service providers to do particular work? Was it an individual appointment of the company? What was it?
To the appointment of Blackhead by Free State or by Gauteng?
By Gauteng.
Yes, it was done by Gauteng, Chair. So I wouldn't be involved with the appointment of a company in a department where I'm not accountable for.
Yes,
So
I think,
I can't be responsible
yes.
for detailing
No,
that.
I think Mr. Pretorius simply seeks your understanding of what the position was in terms of how what Blackhead was appointed by Gauteng to do, because the Free State Human Settlements Department sought to rely on the fact that Blackhead had been appointed in Gauteng to do whatever, and they sought to rely on that to say, we are not going to go to open tender. Now, from what you have told me, this project, it would seem, would never have gone ahead if it did not have your approval as well.
Not necessarily, Chair. Let me explain.
Yes, yeah, yes.
My responsibility as a National Director General of Human Settlements
Yes,
is when you want to revise your business plan,
yes,
you seek the necessary approval.
yes,
Amongst those approvals
yes,
is to consult the National Department.
yes,
The appointments of service providers at the
Yes.
provincial level,
yes,
it's not a responsibility of the accounting officer at national level.
yes. Okay, no, you see that?
So let's just be clear about that, so that
No,
we
no,
don't
no,
confuse.
that's fine. But I think that
I do
just
not
from
have-
my point of view,
Yeah.
I need that clarification.
I do not have jurisdiction over
Yes.
provincial departments who they appoint as
No, no,
service
no.
providers.
I think everybody understands that. But you see, you indicated that this kind of project, there was, you used the word joint between the joint, I think, cooperation, joint approval of whatever between the national department and the provincial department in the morning you used that word. So there needs to be some approval by the HOD in regard to a project in his department. But there is also approval necessary in regard to certain things about such a project from yourself. And my understanding, and you must just tell me again if I misunderstood, my understanding is if the HOD for the Free State Human Settlements Department had thought that this was a good project, they should pursue it, but you did not provide your approval for the change of the business plan and so on. My understanding is that it would not have been able to go ahead. So do I misunderstand the position?
No, Chair. What I'm saying is, I do not appoint.
No. Don't tell me what you want to tell me.
Yes.
I'm asking you a specific question. I've just told you what I understood your evidence to be. Is my understanding correct or not of what you said?
It's correct, Chair.
It is correct,
I
okay.
only approve the business plan.
We can take it step by step.
Okay, Chair.
That part is correct.
Okay, Chair.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if you did not approve the change of the business plan,
Yes.
could the provincial department nevertheless proceed with the project?
If they would have done so, Chair, they would have done it unprocedurally.
Which would not be permissible.
Exactly, Chair.
So they could not properly or lawfully proceed with the project without your approval of the business plan at least.
Correct, Chair.
Okay, all right.
But that does not stop them. That's a point I'm trying to make, Chair.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, no, let's deal with it.
Yeah.
That does not stop them from doing what?
From continuing with the project, irrespective of my decision not to approve the revised business plan. But if they were to do so, they were to do so incorrectly or unprocedurally.
Yes, but...
Because I'm not the accounting officer.
Yes, but what we are talking about is, in terms of what they are supposed to do, in terms of the government procedures and authorities and the laws and the regulations, they could not proceed.
Yes.
If they didn't have your approval of the change of the business
Correct,
plan, they could not proceed in a regular way.
Correct.
They would be doing something irregular.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Mr. Pretorius, I hope I've contributed to
Yes, thank you,
a
Chair.
better understanding of the position.
In fact, Mr. Zulu summarizes it quite well himself, if I can just put to you. In Free State 1208, you say, and if you want to look at it, you're quite welcome to, but you say, in relation to a particular document, you say, it is not within my scope of authority and responsibilities to have become involved in a matter between a provincial department and its service provider. That's clear on your evidence that many of the steps required for appointment of a service provider in a province is up to the provincial department. That much we agree on, correct?
Correct.
You go on to say, as aforesaid, my intervention would only be required if my approval was required for revision of the business plan and budget of the provincial department in question. Now, in this case, we know that your approval was required and asked for and given.
Correct.
Thank you.
I think your answer was correct. I don't think it was captured because...
correct, the approval of the revised business plan.
Yes.
If we can then move on to another topic, and that's the procurement process that preceded the appointment of the joint venture involving Blackhead Consulting Pty Limited. Would you go please to FS 8, page 110.
Did you bundle FS 8?
FS 8.
Okay.
Okay.
So page, Mr. Pretorius?
Page 110.
Yes.
Please help us clarify, Mr. Zulu. The letter that appears on this page appears to be signed by yourself as Director General of the Department of Human Settlements, the National Department. It's dated 7th of April 2014, it appears, and it's addressed to Mr. Edwin Sodi of Blackhead Consulting Pty Limited. So far we are in agreement, I presume.
Yes.
Would you look at it, please? Because, quite simply, it's not clear from the letter what is said here. The title of the letter reads, Letter of Notification, Appointment of Professional Resource Teams, PRTs, to a departmental panel for provincial and municipal planning and implementation support to the human settlements departments and municipalities within specific regional areas. The question I'd like to put to you, and by reference to the document perhaps you can answer, this appointment of Blackhead Consulting Pty Limited, was it an appointment nationally or was it confined to a particular province?
Chair, it's quite, again, a very old appointment, but I would assume, because it's signed by myself, this would be appointment at national. And the reason for that will be as simple as I do not have jurisdiction to appoint any service provider at a provincial level. So this would be, in my assumption right now, be a national appointment. And if I look into the title of this letter, it will be only not one service provider. It will be a combination of different service providers who will form part of of your PRTs, a panel at a national level. So I would assume if I were to go back and check the records of the department, this will have not been the only company that is appointed to be part of the PRTs. That will be my inclination for now.
So what you say, Mr. Zulu, does appear to be consistent with what appears in the paragraph which follows the title, because it says your bid dated 6 November 2013 for appointment of professional resource teams, plural, to a departmental panel has been accepted, and I skipped a line, has been accepted by the Department of Human Settlements. So it seems that what you say about this being a national arrangement is correct.
Yes, yes, it is correct, Chair.
Thank you. The contractual arrangements relating to the appointment of this particular panel, I'm talking about the panel and not any instruction to perform work which might have emanated from the appointment to a panel. Those would be available, I presume, in the National Department. The records in relation to this, not in the Gauteng Department.
Chair, it will depend. At national level, we have a different system that we use for this, and provincial departments, again, they have their own authority, so it may appear at that level as well. So this is only for national purposes. Yeah. But of course, provincial departments may have an access to that information.
Yes, they may have access to it, but the question simply is that the records would ordinarily be kept in relation to national arrangements. Correct. In the national office.
Correct.
Okay. If I could take you please to another document in FS1. Sorry, you're going to have to put that away and refer to FS1. If you would go, please, to page 214.9.
Sorry, page?
2149, did you say? Mr. Pretorius?
Chair, if you would bear with me a moment, please, because these documents have been added
Yes.
to the bundle, and I'm not sure whether they've been filed in your bundle, so I may have to just
No, that's fine.
look for them elsewhere. Okay. The copy I have may be repeated elsewhere in the documentation. If you just give me a moment, please. Chair, may I ask if you have pages 214.1 to page 214, well, that goes on to 214.19. This document is the second affidavit of Mr. Zulu, yet another copy, but it has all the annexures, the documents that were presented to Mr. Zulu as part of the questions placed to him by the Commission.
Yes, I've got pages 214.1 to 214.19.
Yes, and they're not very legible, I'm afraid. I've tried to get more legible copies because they're all in dark,
Well, on
against
the
a
whole,
dark background.
on the whole, I think I'm able to. Well, maybe those that have got numbers or figures might be, but a lot of them that are somewhere on the first half of the document appear to be legible to me. But as you move further, then some may be difficult to read.
All right, we may be able to help, Chair. We found another copy of that particular document. If you would go, please, Mr. Zulu, to FS8, page 169.
What's the page on FS8?
169, Chair.
Yes.
Have you got that document,
Yes, I do.
Mr. Zulu?
Yes,
That is the same document, and you can check it if you wish, as document number 8, given to you in the questions by the Commission to which you answered in that document annexed to your affidavit. That document appears at bundle 1214.14. It's the same document. Are you happy to accept that?
It's the same as the document that I mean, the
Just
one that...
pause a moment, please.
No, it doesn't look the
I
same.
might have been given the wrong document. You just pause there, please. In any event, let's deal with the document at 169 of Bundle 8. And I'll just ask the legal team member behind me just to find the document that was in the bundle given to you. This is a letter addressed to the CEO, dated the 19th of June, 2014. And it says, it's addressed to the CEO of Blackhead Consulting. It's dated the 19th of June 2014, and it's addressed to the CEO of Blackhead Consulting by Mr. McKetsy, who we know is the head of Department Human Settlements Free State at the time. And he says, the above has reference to your proposal submitted to this department, and we'll get there if necessary, and your appointment by the National Department of Human Settlements. So it seems what you say is consistent, that the original appointment of Blackhead was a national appointment, not a provincial appointment. It's consistent with your evidence.
Yes, Chair, but I wouldn't know the context of this letter. So if you say it's consistent, I'm not sure in which context was this letter being written by.
Well, it goes on to say, paragraph 1, Mr. McKetsy says, the department, and I presume he's referring to his own department, wishes to extend your current contracts secured by the National Department of Human Settlements in line with Treasury Regulations 16A66 of 2005. Correct? That's what it says. So we know from your evidence that according to the correspondence at least, and I'm not taking you further than what you've read, according to the correspondence and the documentation at least, Blackhead was appointed nationally as part of a panel. So far we are in agreement.
Yes, Chair, but let me contextualize it once again. But when Blackhead was being considered by the Free State Department of Human Settlement to do the work for them on asbestos, they did not use this appointment that was done by the National Department for their panel.
Well, we're getting there, and I hope you can help
exactly.
us.
So I want to give that context earlier, so that there's no confusion, because they have used the Gauteng process. So I want that to be clear. So this would have not applicable in the usage, because the terms of reference for the panel and for asbestos were two different things. I just want to give that clarity, so that it's the information is not misquoted.
All right.
That's my understanding. I did not write this letter, but I'm just trying to interpret what I'm reading.
No, we understand, Mr. Zulu.
Happy to do that, Mr. Zulu, and we'll go through it at a pace that I hope we can all understand and that doesn't place any pressure on you.
No.
But as I understand your answer, you say, yes, there was a national appointment, but that was not the appointment relevant to the procurement process which followed.
Yes, as I've explained, Chair, the appointment that you are referring to is an appointment of different service providers to a panel, not to do any work by the National Department, not any work. Is to be appointed
Just to get onto the panel.
just to get into, and it ends there.
And then you might be on the panel for a whole year, you get no work,
Absolutely,
or you might get work.
correct.
But just help me in relation to your later answer, Mr. Zulu. When the letter at FS 8110 refers to a bid, and a bid being accepted, we're not talking about a contractual arrangement relevant to what happened later when the contract was transferred or when Free State participated in the contract.
So just help me, Mr. Pretorius. Which letter are you referring to that talks about a bid?
8,
Is the one that I signed?
FS 8110, the one you sent. You said it referred to a national procurement process.
The one for the panel?
Yes.
Yes, it refers to a panel appointed by the National Department.
Correct. Yes.
Yes.
And anything that is said in this letter about bids would apply to that national appointment.
That's why I'm saying, Chair, it depends on the writer. What was the context of raising this in this fashion? I wouldn't be able to give context to that because I didn't write that
that's
letter.
fine, but you did say very clearly, sorry, I interrupted you and perhaps I shouldn't have. Do you want to finish your answer?
Yes, I was saying the bid that I referred to and the letters, not just one letter, that were written to different service providers to become the members of the panel, that was done by National Department. But they were not appointed to do any specific work for the National Department until such time that there is a need for their services. A normal procurement process will follow. So as far as I'm concerned, that's where it ended with my responsibility at national level.
All right.
Obviously, accounting officers, when they do their work, they check certain things, they do certain things. I'm not aware of that because that's outside my scope. I'm talking about something that has fallen within my scope in terms of the letter that you're referring to.
Yes, but you did answer further to say that the contract in which Free State participated was a Gauteng contract and not a national contract.
That was my understanding.
Yes, okay,
Unless
that's
if my
fine.
understanding was
we're on the same
incorrect.
page so far, perhaps.
But the point I'm trying to clarify, Chair, so that you are not lost, the application of 16.A, it has nothing to do with the National Department. I just want to make that point clear.
So anything that is said in this letter in relation to bids and procurement processes does not apply to the 16A process that we will talk about
Which letter are you talking
later.
about now?
I'm sorry?
There are two letters. Which one are you talking about?
The one on page 110 of FSA.
The one that I personally did.
Yes.
That one was only for the panel. It has nothing to do with appointing a service provider to do the work on the spot.
Now, when you appoint a panel, do you go through a competitive bidding process?
Correct. But you are in a panel. You are not appointed to do any specific work.
So the appointment to the panel referred to in 110 is not the contractual arrangement in which Free State participated. That was another Gauteng appointment.
The panel, the letter that I've written to service providers was to appoint them to a panel at national level. It has nothing to do with any work that the province is doing. Any province.
And that would include Gauteng and would include the Free State.
It includes all departments.
And they're unrelated.
Excuse me?
They're unrelated.
Which project is
In
unrelated?
other words, are you saying it includes all departments, even those that have got nothing to do with human settlement?
No, the panel that we appointed, chairperson, had to do with National Department of Human Settlement,
Yes.
to have service providers within the panel.
Yes.
That is outside the scope
Of the provinces.
of the provincial departments.
Yes.
They can even have their own panels if they want to.
Yes.
This
Yes.
one that I did was specifically for the National Department of Human Settlement.
They would be service providers from which you would pick those to give work from time to time.
Through a procurement process.
Through a proper procurement
As and when it's
process,
necessary.
even within the panel.
Correct,
In other words, when you want to create a panel, you have a bidding process.
correct.
And then when there is actual work to be done, you are
there.
generally restricted to this panel.
Correct.
But even with this panel, there would be
A process to
bidding
follow.
process.
Correct.
Okay, and once there is work to be done that must be allocated, where there must be a bidding process, someone who is not on this panel would not be eligible to put in a bid?
If you are outside this panel, yes.
Okay, only
Because
those
you
on the
have not,
panel?
you have not qualified to be in a panel.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
because if you wanted to come onto the panel, there was a time earlier.
Correct.
When it was open, and if you were interested, you would have tried, and then you did not succeed.
Correct, Chair.
Okay.
Well, before we get to the next letter, let me just understand one of the answers you gave previously. You are aware of the fact that in the Free State, that Department of Human Settlements participated in a contract that had been entered into, correct?
So I was aware of the fact that
You are aware from your last answer, because you made it very clear in your answer,
yes,
that the Department of Human Settlements in the Free State participated, you know what that means, in a contract entered into elsewhere.
correct, Chair, as per the submission.
And as
that-
I understood your
in fact,
answer,
Yes, yes, as per the submission that you made and given the affidavit of Mr. Mokgweetsi, yes.
yes, and as I understood your answer, you said that the contract, the participation contract was the Gauteng contract, not the national contract.
No, that is my understanding, Chair, that it has got nothing to do with the national department as far as I'm concerned.
It had to do with the Gauteng
Correct,
department.
because of the specifications. That's how I've learned to understood the,
So when Mr. Mokgweetsi says in the letter at 8169, you would just look at it, please.
yes,
I think the 8 will cause confusion, Mr.
FS8.
On,
Bundle
on
FS8,
169.
page
Oh,
169.
FS8, okay, no, that's fine. FS8.
8, page 169.
Page 169, okay, all right.
Paragraph 1. Well, let's go to the title first. Mokgweetsi says to Blackhead, appointment of professional resource team to a departmental panel and municipal planning and implementation support to human settlements departments and municipalities within specific regional areas. He says the above has reference to your proposal submitted to this department and your appointment by the National Department of Human Settlements. Then paragraph 1 says that the department wishes to extend your current contract secured by the National Department of Human Settlements in line with Treasury Regulations 16A66 of 2005. Is that a correct statement?
1 second, Mr. Pretorius. Just to make clear what the letter says, I think one has got to read it on the basis of the bold line above it. It says, note has been taken of the above, and we wish to request your approval as follows. So one of the approval that he is asking for includes approval that the department wishes to extend. So I just wanted to say it's important to tie it to that.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, just by way of background, I'm not sure everybody will follow, and as far as the public watching, my excuse. But Mr. Zulu will know that when you extend a contract from, let's say, for example, Gauteng to Free State, you need the approval of the service provider as well. Is that correct? Yes. So basically,
I'm sorry.
correct.
Mr.
Correct.
Mokgweetsi seems to
I'm
be...
sorry.
it's correct, Chair.
The answer was correct.
It's correct. If
Okay.
you are using this provision,
Yes,
there are certain parties
yes,
that must give consent to.
yes.
Amongst those parties is your service provider.
Yeah, okay.
Right. But the point I want to make is in paragraph 1, that Mr. Mokgweetsi is saying to Blackhead Consulting Pty Limited and seeking that approval that you've referred to. The department, Free State Department, wishes to extend your current contract secured by the National Department of Human Settlements in line with Treasury Regulation 16A66 of 2005. Now, as I understand it, quite simply, that cannot be consistent with what you've said. Mr. Mokgweetsi must be wrong. Or you must be wrong.
Chair, I would prefer that at least the HOD can give context to the letter, because
Yes, but we do want to...
as I've been explaining.
We do want to benefit from your knowledge as
Yes,
well.
as
because
I've been explaining, Chair.
hang on. We do want to benefit from your knowledge and experience. You are the Director General of the Human Settlements Department.
Right.
We are dealing with a project in the Provincial Human Settlements Department.
Correct, Chair.
You, as an accounting officer, you understand the workings of government and its departments in regard to certain matters. So now here we get the HOD of the Free State Human Settlements Department writing to Blackhead Consulting Pty Ltd on the subject indicated there, and he says he is seeking the approval of the CEO of Blackhead Consulting Pty Limited that his department extend Blackhead Consulting Pty Ltd's current contract secured by National Department of Human Settlements in line with Treasury Regulation number that. Now, we know that, or rather I think when he refers to a current contract secured by the National Department of Human Settlements, I take it he is referring to the subject of your letter that we have dealt with.
I would think so too.
Yes. Now, on the understanding that that is what he's talking about, could he be correct to want to use that contract in this way?
That's why I was saying, Chair, it depends in which context
Yes.
was the HOD referring to
Yes.
to make reference into that. I wouldn't
Yes.
know that.
But to your knowledge,
He may have done some research
yes.
to check the validity
Yes.
of the existence of this company
Yes.
and which service centers exist, whether National Treasury or in the department where this particular company is a vendor. I'm not sure of the context.
Yes.
But under normal circumstances,
Yes.
because this is not a contract that exists between National
give work.
Department and the Blackhead doing any work, then you wouldn't piggyback on that, because
Yes,
this
yes.
company is only on a panel.
Yes.
It's not having an existing contract.
Yes.
That contract, my understanding after reading all the documents that were sent to me,
Yes.
was that it existed
Yes.
between the Gauteng Department of
Yes.
Human Settlements
Yes.
and the service provider,
Yes.
but not with the National
Yes.
Department.
No, that's fine. You see, most of the time,
Yes, Chair.
what Mr. Pretorius is asking for is just your own understanding of the position.
Correct.
And somebody else might come and say, no, Mr. Zulu was wrong. He didn't understand. But what he's looking for is your own understanding.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
I always avoid interpreting other people's letters,
Yeah, no,
because you'll never know the context within which a particular letter is written.
no.
And
that-
then you start making allegations of saying somebody is wrong as an accounting officer, whereas there could have been a reason to contextualize it in this fashion.
No.
Which I'm
No,
not
no.
privy to. So
No,
it's in that context, Chair.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
But as long as everybody understands you are
Yes.
giving your own understanding,
Correct.
that should not be a problem.
Yes.
Mr. Pretorius?
So all we're doing, as the chair says, Mr. Zulu, is asking for how you understand the words of a particular document. And if those words are clear, then they're clear. If they're not clear, they're not clear. But I don't think I've put anything to you where the words aren't clear, but if they're not clear, you can certainly answer as you feel you should. And I'm going to come to another letter. But two things arise out of your recent answers, as I understand it. The first is the contract that was extended, or to put it another way more correctly, the contract in which the Free State Human Settlements Department participated originated in Gauteng and not nationally. Is that correct?
Having read the documents that were forwarded to me, that will be my understanding, Chair.
Yes. Okay. So far, so good.
And also, having understood the request
Yes.
that was put to me as the accounting officer at the time to revise the plan, it was in that context.
Okay. The second,
Not at national.
The second point is that it seems from your answers, which appear to coincide with persons we've consulted in Treasury, that you can't participate in a panel appointment. You've got to participate in a particular contract. Is that fair?
I think in terms of PFMA, that will be correct.
In any event, let's just put aside then the document at 8169, but summarize the position to say that where state organ B wishes to participate in a contract entered into between a service provider and state organ A, the regulation 16A requires the consent of both the service provider and the state organ which accepts the contract. Am I correct?
I will say basically all affected parties, Chair.
Yeah, all right. But at least two of the affected parties, and we can go to the regulation if necessary. But what Mr. Makesi appears to be doing here is precisely that. He's asking the CEO for his consent.
I'll assume so, Chair.
Yes. But let's put that aside because the document says what it says and you're not a party to that communication. But if you would look please at page 214.9.
On the same pack.
Yes.
Just repeat the page.
Bundle 1, FS1, 214.9. It's one of those, unfortunately, almost legible documents against the dark background. You have 214.9.
I'm getting there.
This is another letter written by Makesi to yourself on the same day. The heading, it's dated the 9th, or it appears to have been signed on the 19th of June 2014, and it's addressed to the Director General Department of Human Settlements. Attention, Mr. P.W. Zulu, yourself. Its heading reads, Appointment of Professional Resource Team to a Departmental Panel and Municipal Planning and Implementation Support to the Human Settlements Departments and municipalities with specific regional areas. And you nod your head. I'm afraid you have to say yes because...
No, I was just heading before you finish your statement. I was not heading because...
All right. Well, we haven't got anywhere yet, but the first paragraph reads, the above has reference to your letter of notification dated 7 April 2014. Do you remember that letter?
Yes, it's the letter we spoke about earlier.
Yes, we spoke about it earlier.
Yes.
With the reference number, and it gives a reference number. The second paragraph is the one I'd like you please to comment on if you would. The Free State Department of Human Settlements hereby request your department to extend, it should read extend, the services of Blackhead Consulting Pty Limited in line with Treasury Regulation 16A 6.6 of March 2005. You see what Mr. Makesi is asking you.
Yes.
He's saying, please extend the national contract. Correct.
Yes, that's what he's saying here, Chair. That's why I'm
Now,
saying
we
I'm not
know
sure.
that that doesn't accord with your recollection of events, firstly, and secondly, you can't extend a panel appointment.
Again, Chair, it depends what is it that a particular accounting officer is looking for.
Yes,
Okay,
but
so it all depends. If he was looking for my confirmation that this particular service provider is part of the national panel, the resource team that I have. In a particular context, he may have asked for that. But if he was asking for an
But we know what he is asking. It's in a letter.
But he's asking for a contract.
For your approval.
But there's no contract.
Mr. McKessie, I'm sorry if I may just explain
the-
what the chair is saying and what we are asking from this side of the room is the words are clear. The words don't require a context to assist their interpretation, and we're simply asking you for your comment on those words. The words are clear. They say the Free State Department of Human Settlements hereby requests your department to extend the services of Blackhead Consulting Pty Limited in line with Treasury Regulation 16A66. Now, no context can change those words.
Yes.
Yes.
Simply, he's asking you to extend the national contract.
Actually, he's not even asking for approval. He's asking you to extend.
But this is what I'm trying
Obviously,
to...
you can't extend if you don't approve the extension.
But this is what I'm saying, Chair. I don't have a contract with Blackhead at national level as an accounting officer at the time.
Yes, but let's
So this
go
is-
let's go step by step.
Yes.
You accept that he was asking you to extend the services of Blackhead Consulting Pty Ltd in line with this treasury regulation. You accept that's what he is asking.
That could be what he's asking, Chair, depending on what he meant.
What else could it be?
It could be wanting to confirm if there is a contract.
But it doesn't say that. He writes on the basis that he knows that there's a contract and he's asking you to extend it. Whether he is right or wrong is another matter. But he says, in effect, please extend the services of Blackhead Consulting in line with Treasury Regulation, blah, 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 blah.
Yes, Chair.
That's what he's asking. Whether he is right or justified in making that request, that's another matter. But factually, that's what he's asking you
Yes,
to
Chair.
do. Yes. Okay, Mr. Pretorius, take it from there.
Well, lest there be any doubt, Mr. Zulu, let's look at the next paragraph. He says, it is therefore in this regard that approval is hereby sought, that you provide written confirmation to extend same in the line with your approval, in line with your approved terms and conditions as contained in your instructions, in your instruction to perform. Kindly take notice that the concurrent approval has also been sought from the service provider. See attached request. And that's the concurrent document, also dated 19 June 2014. But is there any doubt as to what Mr. McKessie is saying? Whether it's correct or not, as the chair says, is another question, and he can explain. But what he is saying to you is, your approval is hereby sought. You provide written confirmation to extend the same in line with your approved terms and conditions.
Chair, I can only assume, again, it's a dangerous thing to assume. I can only assume that the reference being made here is in reference to the panel, because there was no existing contract at the time between the company and the national department in a contractual arrangement. So I would have no powers to extend any contract.
Well,
I'm assuming, Chair.
let's leave out assuming.
Yes.
A letter is written to you, and you are being asked to provide approval. Obviously, you must understand what the request is about.
Yes, Chair.
You must understand, you must interrogate the document to see whether this is a situation where your approval can be given or is necessary.
Correct.
Okay? Now, is there any other way in which you understand this request other than that he was asking you to extend the only contract or the only basis or connection your department had with Blackhead, namely Blackhead is on the panel?
Correct, Chair.
That's the only way you
That's the
could
only-
understand
correct.
it.
Correct, Chair.
Okay, all right.
And Mr. Zulu, quite frankly, it seems from the documentation at least that your observation given to the chair is entirely correct. You can't ask national department to extend mere appointment to a panel because there are no terms and conditions of contract to do work.
Correct.
That's correct. All right. Let's then go on, please, to the same bundle, FS 8 at page 181.
Page 181. Mr. Pretorius?
FS 8, 181.
181.
8181.
No, 181, I think he says.
Which one?
FS 8, 181.
Just check whether you have got the right bundle, Mr. Zulu.
That is a letter addressed to Mr. Makesi, Department of Human Settlements, dated 13 August 2014, apparently signed by yourself. And you say, under the heading appointment, same heading, coincidentally, the appointment of professional resource team to a departmental panel and municipal planning and implementation support to the human settlements departments and municipalities with specific regional areas. It reads, the above matter refers. Please be informed that in terms of Treasury Regulation 16A 6.6, it is allowed for the Free State Department of Human Settlements to participate in the contract arranged by means of a competitive bidding process from the database of the Gauteng Department of Human Settlements for professional resource teams where Blackhead Consulting Pty Limited was appointed from. Do you have any comment?
Yes, Chair. I was writing to the HOD advising him on this letter. And I'm sure I would have been responding to one of the correspondences that he has made inquiries with my department. I'll assume.
So it seems that prior correspondence, including correspondence from Mr. Makesi, has referred to a national appointment, but this letter that you send on the 13th of August relates to an appointment in the Gauteng department. Am I correct?
That's why I'm saying most probably, Chair, I was responding to an inquiry that has been made with my office, and I was providing the necessary advice based on that inquiry, which I'm not sure. It could have even been a telephone conversation, or it could have been any other form of communication. But surely when I was putting this, I was responding to something.
So, do I understand it correctly, Mr. Zulu, you would have made inquiries, you would have responded to some form of communication, but here, quite differently to the correspondence which preceded it, as far as you're concerned, you clarified that this was a Gauteng appointment that was being dealt with. Correct?
Yes, and I will assume, Chair, that the inquiry was in line with the intended purpose, probably, of what the accounting officers wanted to do. And obviously, you cannot use the national department because there was no contractual obligation between national department and Blackhead, which is the issue maybe I was trying to clarify. But as I'm saying, I was probably responding to a particular inquiry. Which form it took, I may not be sure of.
Well, in fairness, and as you've said, they can come and explain why they were seeking to extend the provisions of a national panel appointment and not what you pointed out here, Gauteng one. They may have changed their minds, there may have been other communications they can explain. But I'd like to ask you, from your knowledge then, what Gauteng contract was being extended?
Gauteng contract?
Yes. What was being participated in? Now, just to explain for those who may find it difficult to follow us, a contract is entered into with State Organ A,
Yes.
Gauteng Province. Right?
Correct.
The law allows another organ of state, Free State Department, to participate in that contract. Quite what that means we can talk about in due course if we have
Correct.
time, or we will make submissions to the chair in that regard.
Correct.
But to put it in another way, loosely and incorrectly, as it turns out, you transfer the provisions of one contract with one state organ to another contract, or the same contract to another state organ. Did I have it more or less correct?
Yes, I think in the context of this situation, because I don't think you want me to give a lecture how this works. I think we all know how it works. But in the context of this letter, Chair, I think the advice being given here is the fact that the state organ that has a contractual existing obligation is Gauteng Province. It's not the national department. It's got a panel. And that's the only organ, state organ, that you can apply this provision that is being sought here, but not the national department. And therefore, if you need this to be processed correctly and procedurally, you'll have to deal with the Gauteng Department of Human Settlements, which is a state organ that has similar terms of reference for the intended assignment at your disposal in this context.
Understood. Mr. Zulu, thank you for that explanation. Point I want to make, however, is what I'd like you to clarify for us is something different. But before we get there, let's just confirm that one of the reasons you couldn't extend the national contract is because it was merely appointment to a panel with no terms and conditions for work attached.
Absolutely, Chair. There was no existing contractual arrangement between
Correct.
Black except for being a panelist.
And of course, if you want to extend or participate in a contract, it's obvious that contract must say what work must be done, what price, how it must be done, by when, that sort of thing. Correct?
Correct.
But let's get back to this letter at 181, please. Do you know, you signed this letter, do you know what contract, which is the subject matter of a participation process in terms of Treasury Regulation 16A66 is being referred to? You know what they're talking about here?
Which letter are you referring to? Is it not this one?
181, your letter.
Oh, 1A1, yes.
Yes. Something is going
sorry,
to
Mr.
move.
I missed your question, sorry.
All right, let me put it again, please, as clearly as I can. There is a arrangement or contract in the Gauteng department, correct?
Yes.
Free State want to participate in it, and that's the purpose of all this correspondence we're dealing with, correct?
Correct.
What is it that exists in Gauteng in which the Free State wants to participate? What is it? In other words, look at your language, Mr. Zulu, if you will. Please be informed, in terms of Treasury Regulation 16A66, it is allowed for the Free State Department of Human Settlements to participate in the contract. What contract?
But this is the point. And Chair, I hate to make assumptions, and I've noticed that you don't appreciate it, and I apologize for that. because I could have been trying to clarify a point here. And again, because this is as far back as 2014. So I could have been clarifying the point that if you have an intention to participate on an existing contract, clearly there isn't one that exists between the Department of National Human Settlement and Blackhead. The only department that will only have an existing contract will be the Gauteng. And clearly, therefore, I could not be the accounting officer that will have the powers vested with him to actually approve even the participation of Blackhead in a contract, because there isn't a contract that exists between national department. So I think I was trying to provide clarity to a point of even indicating that financial obligations for this will still be squarely with the Free State Department, which wants to participate in that. So that's a contract that exists with Gauteng that does not exist with National Department of Human.
Do you know what that contract was for? The Gauteng contract with Blackhead?
I would Chair, assume that the HOD would have shared that with me.
Okay.
Yes, Chair. Because this was a communication that was happening between the HOD and myself. So probably he would have shared that with me, and I would have then been expected to provide clarity in terms of,
Yes.
of treasury regulations.
Okay. Mr. Pretorius.
But you could help us to a certain extent, as a matter of general principle, Mr. Zulu. As I understand your evidence, you can't extend membership of a panel or an arrangement to be a member of a panel because there are no contractual terms and conditions. You can only extend a particular contract between a service provider and the department, which contains duties and price and the rest.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. Well, at least we know what can be participated and made subject to 16A66 and what can't. Thank you for that. We can then
But
move
again,
on.
I must indicate, Chair, that again, this is also on interpretation basis.
Yeah.
So some people interpret
Yes.
statutes differently.
Yes.
I'm only providing what
Your own
my own
understanding.
interpretation. Yes.
No, that's fine.
Well, in fairness, Mr. Zulu, we are asking you to interpret your own words.
Absolutely, absolutely, and they are informed by the statutes.
Bear with me a moment, Chair. I'm trying to avoid the need to put some documents. If you would go, please, to page 88 of FS8. This is a memorandum addressed to the acting head of department, Ms. Margaret Ann Diedrichs, dated 13 March 2014, by the Directorate Special Projects in Gauteng Province, Human Settlements Department. It's a memorandum that results in the appointment of 8 PRTs, professional resource teams, for assessment of asbestos identification and removal. Now, we will ask the relevant people about this document, but if I can just ask you to assume for the moment that this is the source document, as it appears to be, for the appointment of 8 PRTs in Gauteng. And take you, please, to page 90 of this memorandum. It's headed Asbestos Roof Eradication, Terms of Reference and Implementation Plan. It says in the second last paragraph on page 90, the assessment phase is envisaged to be carried out in March and April 2014. The expiration of the PRT's contracts at the end of March should not have an effect on the assessment and is to be viewed as work in progress. This seems to be an indication that whatever PRT contracts existed in Gauteng were to expire at the end of March, but I presume you wouldn't have any knowledge of that.
Correct.
But if let's just go then to the next page, page 91 of FS8. The third last paragraph reads, professional rates for assessment will be applied in line with the department's IPW fee structure at 650 Rand per house. This will be a fixed rate and the department will not accept any variations from this. Right? And then the recommendations over the page are that the memo should be taken account of. 2, that the attached terms of reference should be approved, and the appointment of 8 PRTs for the assessment of asbestos in Gauteng should be approved. If these recommendations and the terms of reference which resulted, and I'll go to them in a moment, constituted the basis of the Gauteng appointment of the service providers for asbestos removal, including the appointment of Blackhead, then those terms and conditions would be reflected in the contractual arrangement with the service provider. Is that a fair assumption to make?
I guess.
Yes. It does seem obvious, thank you. But if one needs any further confirmation, the terms of reference for the eradication of asbestos roofs in houses in Gauteng appears at page 94, a few pages on.
Just repeat the page, please.
Page 94, FS8.
Okay.
And if you go through, please, to the scope of works. Now, you've very fairly said, Mr. Zulu, that you can't extend or participate in something that has no substance. It's got to have terms and conditions. We see here terms and conditions under scope of works. 5.1, the scope of assessments is as follows. 5.1a, the identification and quantification of affected houses.
So, Mr. Pretorius, which page is that?
Are you at page 98 of FS8?
Sorry about that. Please proceed.
5.1, are you there? 5.1a. The scope of the assessments is as follows. A, the identification and quantification of affected houses. B, assessment of structural integrity of load-bearing walls in each house by a competent person for possible added loads with new roof cover. C, measurement of the size of affected houses by a competent person for new roof designs. That is what is required by the scope of works in terms of the Gauteng contract. Correct?
Correct.
Goes on and deals with an implementation planning stage at 5.2. Seems there are 3 phases here. 1, an assessment phase. 2, implementation planning phase, which involves priorities and phasing and appointment of competent persons for detailed designs and bills of quantity compilation. I don't want to get too complex here. This is really just what is set out in this document as being what is required as the scope of works. And then 5.3 is the construction phase. So to the extent that the terms and conditions in these documents, Mr. Zulu, were the terms and conditions which bound the Gauteng service providers, if this contract was to be participated in the Free State, it would be bound by the same terms and conditions. If you're going to extend a contract, it must be the same contract, correct?
Yes, Chair, under normal circumstances, that's how it's done. That's why you participate on an existing contract. So the terms and conditions and financials are normally expected to be same. If there's a deviation for that, surely there should be a reason for that.
Right.
Chair, may I please request a comfort break?
Sorry?
May I
Comfort
please
break.
request a comfort break for 2 minutes?
Yes, okay. Mr. Pretorius, let's take a comfort break. 10
2
minutes? 10 minutes?
2 minutes is fine.
2 minutes. Well, let's not make it 2 minutes because by the time you reach the door, 2 minutes might be over.
That's gonna run.
We'll make it 10 minutes. We'll return at 1:30. Or maybe before you go, Mr. Pretorius, in terms of planning the afternoon, what's your suggestion?
Well, Chair, there is a witness who perhaps should be excused. The question is whether Mr. Manyeke of Ori, the second subcontractor, should give evidence tomorrow, or Mr. Sodi, who's been summoned for tomorrow. From the legal team's point of view, we would prefer Mr. Sodi to give evidence because his evidence is more substantial for this project. Chair, it may be that we can cut the questions to Mr. Manyeke to the minimum, but then I need time to pay attention to that task.
Yeah.
So if possible, I wouldn't like to sit too late tonight. I'll try and get through as much as possible before 4 o'clock.
Well, from my point of view, I can sit till late. It's just that I have a planned Zoom conference at 6, which I can move to 7, and so on. So I'm just wanting to check whether what your own thinking is, and then of course we will check with Mr. Zulu as well.
Yes, I was to participate in that Zoom conference, Chair, for a short time at least, with your leave.
Oh, no, I may be double booked. The one I'm thinking about doesn't involve you and is not commission work.
Well, if that's the case, I'm very happy, Chair. We can cancel the other one, or postpone it at least.
Yeah, okay. Okay, maybe let's take the adjournment so that Mr. Zulu can have some comfort. Then when we come back, we can finalize in terms of how long we can sit this afternoon.
Thank you, Chair.
Let's take the adjournment. I'll say let's return at 25 to 4. We adjourn.
Thank you.
let's talk about our planning for the rest of the afternoon, and if need be, into the evening. I have been given some information that makes me understand what Zoom conference you were talking about, Mr. Pretorius. I think my understanding was that the member of the legal team who was organizing that was to come back to me and confirm whether all the people that were supposed to be involved in it had confirmed their availability. That had not happened, that's why I didn't remember it. But I've given a message to my registrar to communicate with him with a view that if everybody is available, we could look at 7 or after 7, but when we come out of here, there would be communication. If they are not available, then we can fix another time.
Perhaps I'll address you about that separately.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I just wanted to, it's just that I want to know how far we can go this afternoon. I can make adjustments, and I'm quite prepared to sit beyond 4 o'clock, beyond 5 o'clock, if
yes.
everybody is fine with that.
There's not much time that is necessary now in relation to Mr. Zulu. Mr. Zulu has expressed the desire to complete today, so if we may complete today, I don't think we'll go much beyond 4.
Okay.
And then what we can do is call Mr. Manyeke early tomorrow. He'll be very brief.
Yes.
And then complete Mr. Sodi.
Yeah, okay, then that's fine. I just wanted to have an idea.
Yes,
Then,
thank you, Chair.
then in that event, even if we'll talk separately about this Zoom conference in which you would be involved if you are available.
Yes, Chair. I'll be available for a short time.
Yeah, okay.
By your leave, Chair.
And it should not take long. It's a very practical issue that's to be discussed. Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Zulu, then just to close off the participation issue. Thank you. Now, Mr. Zulu, the question now involves certain benefits received by you, and let's not debate for the moment whether they were legitimate or not. We can come to that at a later stage. Let's simply try and establish the facts, because I think the facts are largely common cause, including your explanation for what occurred. Chair, the references here, the evidence has been summarized, and if I may refer you to bundle FS8 at page 39 and following. What the investigators have done is they've examined the bank accounts of Mr. Sodi, and arising out of Mr. Sodi's bank accounts, they have traced certain payments which involve a motor dealer, and I must apologize to the owner of the institution. It's in Belito, not Pietermaritzburg. So there can be no passing off as a result of the free advertisements in this session. The evidence involves 2 transactions, one involving the payment of R1 million and the other involving the payment of 600,000 rand. But if we may go to FS 839, please.
what page on bundle FS?
FS 8, page 39.
Oh, I've been given FS 9. There must have been a misunderstanding. FS 8, page 39.
Yes, please.
Yeah, that's where I was before I was given that one. I thought you might have changed your mind. Yes.
The product of the investigations, Mr. Zulu, for the present appears at page 39 at paragraph 9.3.1. And what the investigators have established is that the amount of 1 million rand was transferred on the 26th of May 2015 from Blackhead, and the ABSA account number is given, to SMD Trading Group. And the ABSA account number is given. SMD Trading Group is a car dealership in Belito. As I understand it, there is no dispute from you in that regard. You don't have any information to contradict those facts.
Contradict what?
Let me go through it again. 1 million rand was transferred on 26 May 2015 from Blackhead to SMD Trading Group, a car dealership in Belito.
Chair, that I have no clue of that, and it's got nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
The 1 million one, I have no clue about that.
Yeah.
But the 600,000, yes.
Yes. No, I understand, but I need to put it to you
Okay,
anyway.
that's why I wanted to make sure that I don't agree on something
Yes.
that combines both.
No.
Well, it's not that you don't agree with it, it's just that you have no comment in relation to it.
Yeah, especially to 1 million. But to 600, yes, I do.
Yes, the 600 we'll come to. What is interesting about it, though, in Sodi's records, the transaction was marked TZ. He explains it later, but he marks it TZ. And perhaps I better put the full sequence to you to make it easier. In SMD records, the transaction is referred to as Tabani Zulu, right? But according to Mr. Duomini, he says that although Tabani Zulu is referenced in the bank statement, this payment went toward the sale of a Maserati to Mr. Makleni Ntuli, and he has not been interviewed by the investigators. So it seems to me that Sodi makes a payment of 1 million rand to SMD. In his records, he marks it TZ. In the recipient's records, SMD records, the reference is to Tabani Zulu. But that payment is used to buy a Maserati for Mr. Ntuli. Now, do you know of those facts? Is there anything in those facts that you can contest?
No.
What is interesting, however, is Mr. Sodi's explanation for this, which we will ask him about. He says, he just associated you with Mr. Ntuli, and that's why he put the TZ reference there. Have you any comment to make in regard to that? Is there any reason why Mr. Sodi would associate you with Mr. Ntuli to put the incorrect reference in his payment, according to him?
If I may, Chair, I can only speculate that it could be that Mr. Ntuli was introduced to Sodi by myself in my business that I do in Peter Marisburg. So that could be the reason. But other than that, I wouldn't be no. But I have no benefit whatsoever that was associated with that payment personally.
Do you know, it's written here, Makleni. I suspect that there must be a misspelling. It might be Mapeleni Ntuli.
Yes.
Do you know anybody that might be called Mapeleni Ntuli?
That is the person that I'm referring to.
You know.
Mabelene.
Mapeleni, yes.
Yes, and that would be spelled Mabheleni. That would be Mapeleni. Is that correct? That would be
I
the correct
I
spelling.
assume so, in terms of the spelling, yes.
In terms of spelling,
I
that
think
would be correct, yeah.
Chair.
Mabeleni.
Yes. Point that the chair is making is that the way the name is spelled might look
Yes.
incorrect. That's the point he's trying to
Oh,
make.
I see.
Yes, so what I'm saying is when I look at it here, it's spelled in a way that seems to me to be unlikely to be correct.
Yeah.
Because it's an isiZulu word name, so it's likely to be Mabeleni. And Mr. Zulu does say he does know a Mr. Mabeleni Ntuli.
And you know the spelling of the first name?
No, I wouldn't know the spelling, but I think the chair,
Well, let's call him Mr. Ntuli. I think we're talking about the same person.
Well, I've said that in isiZulu, if you say Mabeleni, it would be Mabheleni, but you could have other people writing it as Mabeleni.
In any event, Mr. Ntuli, you say you introduced him to Mr. Sodi.
I'm saying that could be the reason.
That could be the explanation.
Mr. Sodi, yes.
And Mr. Sodi says, well, he just knew you were associated, so therefore he put TZ on the payment reference. But let's leave that aside for the moment. Mr. Ntuli is a businessman in KwaZulu-Natal, if I'm not correct, mistaken.
Yes.
And Mr. Sodi expressed the desire to get involved.
I'm sorry, that answer might not have been captured. Just repeat it.
Oh,
The question was whether Mr. Mabeleni Ntuli is a businessman in KwaZulu-Natal. You
Yes, I
said
think
yes.
that's how I've known him.
Yes, yeah.
And Mr. Sodi apparently expressed the desire to extend his businesses into KwaZulu-Natal.
I wouldn't know
You
that.
wouldn't know that.
No.
In any event, that sequence of events that I've just described to you is admitted by Mr. Sodi in paragraph 65.6 of his new affidavit, dated the 26th of May 2015. He says he used TZ because he associated TZ with Mr. Ntuli. It appears that on the recipient side, SMD knew who TZ was because they recorded it as the Bani Zulu. You can't comment on that.
Yeah.
That would be a question for...
It's because those transactions I don't get involved. So when people use the references, chairs, especially for this particular payment, I had no comment
Yeah.
to make on those transactions.
Yeah. So are you saying to the extent that Mr. Sodi may have paid 1 million rand into the account of SMD Trading Group and wrote TZ,
For his own account.
but that was in regard to a car that went to Mr. Ntuli, you say you don't know anything about the transaction of a car, but you do know that there is a Mr. Ntuli
Yes.
that you introduced to
Correct.
Mr. Sodi,
Yes, correct.
to
Chair.
Mr. Sodi,
Yes.
and that is Mr. Mabeleni Ntuli.
Yes. Chair.
Okay.
And I was not a beneficiary of that transaction.
Yeah, you were not a beneficiary of anything
No.
in their transaction.
Correct, Chair.
Okay.
And in fairness to Mr. Zulu, that's as far as the investigators can take it.
Yes, okay.
Let's deal then with the 600,000 rand payment, which is on a different footing. It seems that on the 22nd of December 2015, an amount of
Maybe, I'm sorry, Mr. Pretorius. Maybe you can share with me, Mr. Zulu, the context in which you introduced Mr. Ntuli to Mr. Sodi.
Well, Chair, I come from KwaZulu-Natal, born and bred in Pietermaritzburg. So I also run businesses myself in Pietermaritzburg, which at the time I have declared. And one of the businesses is the hospitality industry.
Just raise your voice.
One of the businesses is hospitality industry, which is called TZ Lounge, which I have declared. So this is where I have met Mr. Ntuli visiting my place, but also Mr. Sodi was also a customer of my place as well. So I've known them in the business social circles, and I could confirm that I actually introduced Ntuli to Mr.
You
Sodi.
actually?
Introduced Ntuli
Yes.
to Sodi.
Yes,
So Sodi is from Gauteng,
yes.
but he's got his homestead as well in KZN.
Yes. Did the introduction happen at your business in Pietermaritzburg, or did it happen in Gauteng?
It happened in Gauteng.
In Gauteng,
Yes, I'll think so.
yes. How long had you known Mr. Ntuli at the time
Sure,
you
sure.
introduced him to Mr. Sodi, if you are able to remember? For
I can't
many
remember.
years or for a
I
short
can't
time?
remember, but I've known him for quite some time.
Yes.
But I can't remember
Are you
exactly.
able to remember when it was, in terms of year, when you
I wouldn't-
introduced Mr. Ntuli to Mr. Sodi?
I wouldn't be, Chair. I don't
You would
want
not
to,
remember?
No.
Okay. And the context was because of business, or just because you happened to be in
Social
the company
context.
of one of them and the other one came?
Social context, Chair.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
It seems that in respect of the payment of 600,000 rand, apart from one aspect that may arise later, there's also not much in dispute. That on the 22nd of December 2015, an amount of 600,000 rand was paid to SMD.
Correct, Chair. Correct, Chair.
That was paid by Mr. Sodi under the reference SMD.
I'll think so, Chair.
Right?
You don't know, but you,
I don't know how they were.
if he
referring-
says
Yeah.
that is what happened, you'd accept that?
Yes, but I can assure that it was in relation to me.
Yes, and according to the documentation, we can go through it if you wish.
No, I'm
According
I'm
to
not
the
disputing.
documentation, SMD received this amount of 600,000 rand and placed the reference TZ next to that receipt. That's what was SMD's reference, TZ.
Okay.
And you don't take issue with that, I presume, because of what follows.
I'm called by different names, so others they called me TZ, others they called me Tabani, whichever way, others they call me DG. So people use different names that relate to me in their own right. I don't really choose how to do it. Yeah.
But TZ is one of them?
But it's one of them, correct.
Okay.
That's even my lounge.
Yes,
Yes, I
okay.
even call my lounge my business TZ.
Your lounge is called TZ Lounge?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And then, Mr. Zulu, according to Mr. Domini, that amount of 600,000 rand went towards the purchase of a Range Rover for yourself.
Correct.
And that's correct.
Correct. So much correct, so Chair, if I may add, that the balance of it, I have to go to the bank to ask for a loan, but also to confirm that at the time I was an accounting officer, I had an obligation to declare the vehicle, which I did.
What is curious, Mr. Zulu, is that on the 23rd of March 2016, that some 3 months later, SMD sent an invoice to you for 690,000 rand, reflecting a cash deposit of 690,000 rand. Do you know anything about that?
Yes, that was for the deposit of the car that is under question.
And who paid that?
That's 600,000.
No. The SMD invoice to Mr. Zulu for 690,000 rand also reflected a cash deposit of 690,000 rand. Who paid that cash deposit?
I don't know what is cash deposits. My understanding, if I may explain, was that the deposit for the car was 690,000. 600,000 is the amount that was paid on the 21st.
That was paid by Sodi?
So the yes. And then the 90,000 was for the wheels, which I did not change later. So I never paid
Okay,
90,000.
Maybe it's the mask. I'm not hearing the part about 90,000. Just repeat that.
The total deposit for the car was 690, but 90,000 was to cover the wheels, which I did not change, which I intended to change in the car. So the 600,000 was paid by Sodi.
Yes.
So the cash deposit, I don't know how their bookings are done. The cash
Yes.
deposit that he's referring to, Mr. Pretorius,
Yeah,
is the same deposit that was paid,
600,000.
600,000. That's my
Yes.
understanding, Chair.
Okay, I think he's
But I think Mr. Dominic can explain that, how.
Yeah, I think
his-
he's
his books.
asking, I think he knows that the 600,000 was paid by Mr. Sodi. I think he's asking about whether you paid the 90,000 rand.
No, no, I did not pay the 90,000 rand. It fell off because I did not change the will. But when he's referring to cash deposit, it's not
Yes.
like someone
Yeah.
went and paid cash deposit. It's still transferred by
Yeah,
Mr. Sodi.
okay, okay.
All right. So what is common cause, leaving aside the various references and the initials, is that 600,000 rand was paid to SMD on the 22nd of December 2015 for your benefit, subject to your explanation.
Therefore, I'm not sure when you say for my benefit,
All right.
I
That
think
may
let's,
be-
let's contextualize it because
I
that
don't want
could
to
mean too
force
many
you into
things, Chair.
admissions you
Yeah,
don't
no,
want.
you can say whether you accept the for your benefit part or not, but he wants you to
It was
confirm.
paid. It was paid. There's an amount of money that
Yeah.
was owed to me, which I directed to the dealership.
Yeah,
Chair.
yeah.
So if that's what you mean by benefit,
Okay.
then I can say yes. But it was
Yes.
not like there's a benefit that
Yeah.
it was a money owed to me through my businesses.
Yes, okay.
Yes, Chair.
Well, even on your own version, one can debate whether discharge of a debt arising out of monies from where they arose is a benefit or not. But I
Yeah,
don't want to have that argument with you. That's a legal argument. But for the present, I do need to put to you your explanation for that transaction. You say, yes, Sodi made such payment to SMD on my instructions, in discharge of a debt due by him to one of my businesses, TZ Lounge, correct, for goods sold and delivered and services rendered during 2015. First question, if I may, Mr. Zulu, is there any documentation by way of a letter, an invoice, a record of expenditure that substantiates that statement?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, there will be documents because, of course, it dates as far back as 2015. So I'm sure if the investigators, which I was hoping, Chair, they would have done, to consult with me to check any information to that effect. Unfortunately, that was not done. But if the Commission were to ask for me to scrap as far back as 2015, if there's any information that one could find, that I could do. I was hoping, actually, when I got the questions, that the investigators will come to me and go and dig deep in terms of the question that Mr. Pretorius is asking. But
Yes.
unfortunately, that did not happen.
Yes. Okay, I certainly would like you today to give me as much information about that 600,000 rand, how it originated, what was the whole thing about, as possible, and if there are documents that support what you are telling me in regard to that amount, telling me about, then they can be provided in due course. But I would like to know as much as possible about it.
I was going to, if I may, just take it step by
Yes,
step.
no, Mr. Pretorius will ask questions aimed at giving me that information.
Let's start, Mr. Zulu, with your statement. Sodi made such payment to SMD on my instruction. What form did those instructions take?
It was a verbal instruction.
Verbal instruction.
Correct.
What did you do? Did you telephone Mr. Sodi and say, pay me what you owe me?
We normally do stock taking in my business, Chair. As you will understand that township business, we normally write down things. And during this period, I was doing the same thing with my team. And instead of taking the money, I decided to instruct him to go and deliver the money where I wanted him to deliver it upon my instruction.
Okay, maybe Mr. Proteus, we must start a little earlier. Tell me about this business that you have talked about, TZ Lounge. What does it do? What is done?
We do events, Chair. We sell food.
You sell food?
Catering.
Yeah.
We also sell liquor.
Yes.
We also have a sports bar as
Yeah.
well in it. But mainly we are more strong on events, on special days,
Yes.
where we host different people to come and present themselves by singing or doing different events and pay them for those activities.
Yes.
And then also sell the stuff that we have.
Yes.
So that's how busy it gets in
Yes.
terms of its overall.
Is it based in town in Pietermaritzburg, or is it in one of the townships in
It's
Maritzburg?
based in township just before you get out of the township called Sobantu.
Is that Imbali Township or
No,
which
it's
township?
Sobantu.
Sobantu Township.
Sobantu Township, yes.
That's where it is based.
That's where it's been, yes.
Okay, all right.
And it's declared. I did declare it as part of the
You did
requirements.
declare it,
Correct.
yes. Yes.
So a customer would come and order liquor or participate in an event, order food, is that correct?
Correct.
How would payment be made?
We had a machine to swap, which was FNB. And again, Chair, these are the questions.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
I'm saying we had a machine, FNB machine, to swap the card.
Oh, you had a
If you
card
want-
machine.
That was one option. The other
Yes.
option was cash.
All right, so you would pay, a customer would pay cash or would swipe a card.
Or you write down your
Would it be
order.
normal for
Or-
you to allow
or-
someone to run up a tab, I think is the word, or run up a debt of 600,000 rand?
A tab?
All right, sorry.
I'm
it's,
very careful about the...
Maybe
about the
something
wording.
that is used in different parts.
I knew you'd get into that question, Mr. Pretorius. That's why I'm careful. We can't run a tab of 600,000 rand.
Mr. Sodi appears on your version to have run up a debt to your lounge
Mr.
of
Zodi,
600,000 rand.
it's not a tab. You place an order, you deliver also alcohol to different people. You place an order, we deliver it to you. At times you don't have to pay on the spot, but we put our system in place to make sure that at the right time you must pay what is required of you to pay for. If you want to swap, you also swap. As I'm saying, Chair, we have an FNB machine inside the lounge that we're using if you want to swap. So we use different forms of payments.
Well,
Yeah.
well, the debt, tell me about it, because you said Mr. Sodi was paying an amount that he owed you when he paid the 600,000 rand into SMD's account.
Chair.
What had he done? What was the debt about?
At that time, Chair, it will mainly the orders that he will place,
Of what? Of liquor?
of liquor in particular,
Yes.
because he used to be at KZN to host different
He
dignitaries.
used to be?
At KZN,
He used to be at KZN?
yes, to host different dignitaries at
Yes.
his own homestead.
Yes.
And he will ask me to buy stuff for him and give it to him on his arrival.
Yes.
So it was
What
a
was he
competition.
running? What was his business for which he would have needed liquor, or did he have a function?
I'm sure he will explain better on that, Chair, but mainly it was for him to host his guests at his own house,
Or to entertain his own guests?
entertain his own guests.
Yeah.
Mainly that was my understanding.
Would this have been liquor that he had got from your business over a certain period, or would this have been one order, like for one function?
Over a certain period, Chair.
It would have been over a certain
Correct.
period.
Correct.
And are you able to remember round about when it was that he had ordered liquor?
It was mainly in 2015.
Hmm?
It was mainly in 2015.
Mainly in 2015?
Yes,
Yes. By that time, you had known him for a long time?
I think almost for about 3 years or so.
You had known him for about 3 years or so.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
I
And
could not be specific, Chair.
did he have an arrangement with your business in terms of which you could deliver liquor to, your business could deliver liquor to him and he would pay later?
Yes, Chair. And at times you can fetch it
Yes.
himself. Correct.
Yes. And was that a written arrangement or are there documents about the arrangement?
Yeah, at times there will be written
will be,
documents, there will be
yes.
diaries where the order is written down and the amounts of
Yes.
money owed are written down.
Yes.
There will be
yes.
those kind of things to make sure that I track down my customers. He was not the only customer
Yeah.
with the same arrangement, actually.
Yes,
Chair.
there were other
There were
customers,
other customers.
who might have ran up
Yes.
big amounts of debts.
Correct, Chair.
Yes, okay. So the whole amount at the time that he made this payment of 600,000 rand, was that the last amount he owed you, or was there still some
There was
that he was
some,
still
Chair.
going
This
to
was-
pay?
There was more. I think it was about 604, if I'm not mistaken.
600 and?
4, if
And
I'm not
4,000.
mistaken. Yes.
Okay.
But this is the amount I needed to
Yes,
do the deposit, which I directed.
yes, yes.
Chair.
So,
Chair, if I may
Yes.
interrupt, I've just got a message that the stenographers are struggling to hear Mr. Zulu.
oh, yes. Yeah, I think,
I'm sure I'm loud now.
yeah, I think that's better.
Yes.
So he owed you 604,000 rand.
At the time, I think so,
At
if I'm
the
not
time,
mistaken, yeah.
you gave the instruction
Yes,
that he must pay 600,000 rand to SMD, to the
Correct.
SMD account.
correct, Chair.
It just seems strange that if he owes you 604,000 rand, you don't ask for him to put in 604,000 rand.
No, I wouldn't have, Chair, because that was my arrangement with the dealership.
Or in terms of
That was informed by the,
the 4,000 rand, he could pay directly to
Yes,
you.
yes, you
But the
wouldn't have done-
600,000 could
Yes,
go that
exactly,
side.
correct.
Did he pay you the 4,000 rand afterwards
yes, Chair,
into your account
via cash.
with cash?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, all right. So you say there were other businesses or there were other people who also would have had a similar arrangement with your business in terms of which they could owe you quite large sums of money for liquor.
Across the board, some large,
Across the
some
board.
small. I mean,
Yes.
you'll understand, Chair, the township business. You've got
Yes.
different clientele.
Yes, yes.
Oh, my clientele was of different caliber
Yes,
because of the provision of a service
yes,
that I was providing. So I had a
Yes.
special clientele that I've targeted for my business for
Yes.
obvious reasons.
yes,
So there will be different categories of people
Yes.
at different levels of their income levels.
yes. And the documentation that you say you do have in support of your version that this was a debt or a loan, I think it's a debt. What documentation do you remember as documentation that you have that you could make available to the commission?
So it could be, I could check the notebooks that were being used
Yeah,
by my staff, but I can also check the diaries,
yes,
if they still
okay.
exist, which they used to keep.
Okay, all right.
This is what I thought maybe investigators would be interested on.
Yes,
Upon,
yes.
upon them having gone into my account,
Yes,
but unfortunately they never did.
yes. Mr. Pretorius?
Thank you, Chair. So I understand your evidence, Mr. Zulu, during 2015, Mr. Sodi became indebted to your business. That business is TZ Lounge, correct?
Correct.
Please.
Correct.
I'm just going to interrupt your voice. The indebtedness of 600,000 rand, did he come into your premises occasionally?
Occasionally, yes.
And
Not
was
all the
this
time.
the debt that, or the expenses that he would have incurred on that occasion, did that form part of the 600,000 rand?
Correct.
And you say there were times when you delivered alcohol as well?
Yes, at times I'll deliver alcohol to him, at times
And this
we'll
was
go-
during 2015?
2015, yes.
And you say that when customers come, they can use a credit card,
At the time, yes.
and the credit card would be that payment by credit card.
Yes, by swapping.
They wouldn't have to draw money elsewhere. They would just swipe the credit card on your credit card machine.
Yes, as I've said, they will use different formats. Those who want to pay via credit cards, they will use credit cards.
So
Those who
there
want
is a
to pay
credit
cash.
card facility, and there was a credit card facility in 2015.
Chair, I'm not sure. I can double check that. There was a time when the credit card system that we're using
All
was
right.
not functional.
Okay,
But I
and-
can assure you that there was a point when that facility was fully functional. But I can double check that.
Now, this money is owed to your business.
Correct.
Is there any reason why you would have said to Sodi, pay it for my personal benefit and not pay it to the business?
Let's repeat the question.
You see, what you did was you didn't say to Sodi, pay it to my business.
Yes,
You said, pay it to a garage dealer for my personal benefit.
yes,
Is that correct?
correct.
Is your business a company, SCC, or when you say TZ Lounge? Or is it a sole proprietor business? You own it as a person, and it's not a legal entity on its own?
No, it's not a legal entity on its own. I was trading it as TZ Lounge.
Sorry?
I was trading it as TZ Lounge.
TZ Lounge, yeah.
Correct. As a
So it was
trading.
you trading as TZ
Correct.
Lounge, yes.
Correct.
And you are the sole owner
Correct. At that time, together
at
with
that
my
time,
wife. Yeah.
together with your wife?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Well, our investigations show that there is an entity with the letters TZ that is owned by someone else in Pietermaritzburg. Do you know of that entity?
An entity
Do
doing
you say,
what?
are you the sole owner of
Yes.
TZ Lounge?
At the time, yes, together with my wife.
Well, then you can't be the sole owner. Are you and your wife joint owners of
Yes,
TZ
correct.
Lounge?
All right, let's put it like that. Is the
No,
way
you did mention
Yes, I
together
did.
with your wife, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And the business is registered in the names of both you and your wife.
Yes.
And by what name is your wife registered in that business?
I think it's Brooding, if I'm not mistaken.
Surname?
Brooding, if I'm not mistaken.
Spell that, please.
Brooding.
Brooding.
Yes. I'm not sure what your investigators did found, though, Chair. That's why I was saying I would have preferred that
Yeah,
such level of detail was being sought rather than,
yes.
if you hear what I'm saying. That's
No, I understand.
That's
yeah.
the cry I've always had, because
Yeah.
I've availed myself to give all the information as required. And I don't think, Chair, with all due respect, that to make reference to my wife when I've not been given that opportunity, it's fair.
No,
Because
I'm just asking
at
who
least-
owned the business. There's nothing sinister in that question.
No, okay, in your view, if that's your view, that's fine.
Because what happens is that a debt owed to the business is paid to you in your personal capacity, but that's
But I'm
maybe
just saying,
something that can
I'm
be
just saying, these are the
debated
questions,
at a
Chair.
later stage.
I would have
Sorry.
I'm saying, Chair, these are the questions I would have provided. All the answers to investigators
Yes.
at any given moment they wanted that information. And I've never been given that
Yes.
opportunity
Yeah.
to say, come tell us about this detail now. One of the reasons I was asking myself, why am I just brought into the commission having not answered the questions? And I knew at the back of my mind, these are the type of the questions that Mr. Pretorius will be asking in a public platform. Whereas all the information is available, and I had no intention whatsoever to hide that information.
Yes. Okay. All right.
Well, I do have a note from the investigators here that
You were saying something about a certain company, Mr. Pretorius. You were saying something about a certain other company under my name in Pietermaritzburg.
Yes, I'm just saying, do you know of any other entity with the letters TZ that is a similar business to yours?
I wouldn't know. How would I know that?
You don't know, all right.
There's
Well,
so
I
many
would imagine
entities.
you would know of your competitors in Pietermaritzburg, particularly competitors with the
I
name
know
TZ.
all competitors in my space. I know all of them in my space. That's why I'm saying I wanted
Yes.
to get,
And you have no competitors who trade under the initials TZ?
not that I know of.
Yes.
And you would know, obviously, if there was another TZ lounge in Pietermaritzburg, not owned by you. But be that as it may, I have a question here as to, did you offer the documentation that you now talk about when you were asked to give evidence as to the payment of 600,000 rand? You could have said, look, I've got
Did I offer?
documentation. Did you offer documentation?
I was never asked to offer any documentation, Chair. No one has asked me to offer any documentation. And no one has ever even called me into a meeting and asked me about this. It's the first time that I'm here and answer those questions.
One of the other features of the way this money was paid to you is that nothing would appear in your bank accounts.
Because nobody has asked me about my bank accounts. People just went into my bank account. Nobody has asked me about my bank accounts. This is one of the reasons, Chair, that to some extent I did not appreciate the way investigators have dealt with me. I offered to provide all information in my first affidavit. I offered for my own banking statements to be made available for any transaction. I offered that myself on my affidavit. That never happened. So I'm just trying to say, Chair, the information that Mr. Charles is referring to, no one has even asked me for that documentation.
But you know, Mr. Zulu, I've got to put this to you in order to be fair to you so that you can deal with it. You came last year, was it August, or your lawyers came. You put up an affidavit arising out of Mr. Dugwana's evidence, as I recall, in which he sought to link you, I think, or maybe I'm being unfair to him. But
I think he was just using the book, Chair. He was
using a certain...
Let's put it like that.
a spreadsheet.
Correct.
And on his understanding, to say the least, there was a possibility that certain initials there were referring to you. There was a possibility on his thinking. And in that context, I mean, if the amount reflected there in that spreadsheet against the initials that we're talking about, if that amount, those initials represented you, and if that amount was paid to the person represented by those initials, who would be you, that would be in your account if it was paid into your accounts, okay? So the context in which you were saying the investigators can come and I'll cooperate, I'll show them my accounts, they can look at my accounts, I was not paid any money. That was the context. But for me, here is the point. I would have expected that if you knew that there was money that came from Mr. Sodi's business, or from Mr. Sodi, that was paid, I will say for argument's sake, for your benefit, or was paid to you, even if via a car dealer, that I would have expected that you would say, you people, I can tell you that I never got any X million rand that is written there, and those initials don't represent me. My accounts, you can come and have a look. But what I can't disclose is that there is some money that Sodi paid, that I instructed him to pay. He didn't pay it into my accounts. This is where he paid it for. This is what it was about. That's all I can tell you. You don't even have to come and investigate. I can tell you there's money that I got from him, but these are the circumstances under which I got them. But you didn't say that. You just said, you can come and have a look at my accounts, I'll cooperate. So somebody can say, you were able to say that because you knew that no money went into your account. The money went into SMD's account. You understand what I'm saying? So I thought I must just put that to you so that you can deal with it.
No, I hear you, Chair, and I hear the angle that you are coming from. I think, Chair, maybe it's because this transaction, from where I'm sitting, was above board transaction. So much so that the product in question, it's a product that I've declared. So it's above board. So much so that the balance of it appears in financial statements. So if you go to the financial institution that provided loan for it, so it's the product that is above board. So there was no secrecy around it. There was no way I was going to hide it, and I had no intention. Maybe it was in that context that I was saying, if anybody wants me to cooperate and provide any form of information on anything that is suspicious of, I'm available. And this particular product in particular, it's a product that I declare. So I have an obligation at that time to declare my business and to declare any property that I own, which I did. But even if I did not want to declare it, there is a bank that confirms that you get money to buy the product, and I'm still paying for that loan for that matter. So maybe it's because of that context that the investigators were going to, in any event, find the information that I have declared as required, Chair.
Yes.
Maybe it's in that context that I never bothered that much because I
Yes.
said I'm available to provide the information.
Okay.
All right. The proposition that I would want to put to you, Mr. Zulu, is not a difficult proposition. The transaction involving the payment of 600,000 rand for your benefit or in discharge of a debt to SMD Motors would not appear in your personal bank accounts. Correct?
Correct.
And that would enable Mr. Sodi too to say, as he does, FS1, page 519, paragraph 81, it's a straightforward statement. He says,
I'm sorry, what page?
page 519 of FS1, paragraph 81.
I'm afraid you'll have to repeat the page number now that I've got the bundle.
Page 519.
Page
FS1.
519.
Yeah.
First at 8. First at 8.
1, FS1.
Page 159.
Yeah.
519, towards the end, right towards the end. Yeah.
You have it there, Mr.
Yes,
Zulu?
yes, I do.
Do you
519.
have it, Chair?
Yes, I've got it.
Paragraph 81, he says, I have not, in my personal capacity, nor has Blackhead, made any payments to the personal accounts of any government officials. That may be correct.
Well, it's general, so I
Yes,
can
he
say,
says he's not
I'm
made...
saying government officials, but I'm talking about
Well,
me.
insofar as you are a government official, he's correct. He hasn't
Yes.
made any payment into your personal account. Correct.
Correct.
But he has made a payment of 600,000 rand to you through a payment to SMD Motors. He's discharged a debt to you and paid that to SMD Motors. The point I'm making
Yeah, I hear
is the
you.
construction of the transaction to SMD Motors ensures that it doesn't appear in your personal account. To enable Mr. Sodi to say, I have not in my personal capacity, nor has Blackhead, made any payments to the personal accounts of any government officials.
Okay.
And there's no but after that. But anyway, let me just go, if I may, by way of summary to your own statements. Your first affidavit appears in bundle FS1 at page 152.
Uh, 152, you said. Well, there's an affidavit of Mr. Zulu's that starts at page 150.
You would bear with me a moment, Chair, if I could just get it. Your first affidavit, Exhibit TT 5.1, appears in bundle FS1 at 150. I want to take, if I may, briefly to page 152.
Yes, Chair, I'm there.
You say at paragraph 7.2 in the last sentence, I unequivocally tender to the Commission, without the necessity for any summons, to provide my banking details and those of my wife, or any other information that the Commission may require of me to substantiate the fact that I received no money whatsoever from the aforesaid project or at all. That's a very wide statement.
Correct.
We know that you knew, and you do know that you did receive money, subject to an explanation in relation to the legitimacy of the payment. Correct?
No, Chair, that's not correct. The statement here says, and I'll read it myself, and I want to read the last paragraph, because the last paragraph is preceded by the statement. That appears to be, or let me just read the whole paragraph, Chair, so that the context is not lost.
Okay.
I deny emphatically that insofar as the annexure, which includes the initials TZ, if the annexure is real, I will deal with this later. However, the above mention appears to be that I received 10 million out of the Free State Asbestos Eradication Project for no justifiable reason whatsoever, and apparently there's a corrupt payment. That I still deny. As I'm sitting here in this commission, I still deny, Chair. I did not get any money of 10 million as was appearing on the spreadsheet of Mr. Dugane as a beneficiary. So I will put it to Mr. Pretorius that I still remain with the statement that I did not get any money as it appears on the spreadsheet as a beneficiary. So as you are putting it to me, I'm not sure from which context then Mr. Pretorius is saying he's putting it to me that I did get the money.
Okay,
I find that to be quite offensive.
I think
He's putting it to me that...
I think you may be misunderstanding what he's saying.
Please, let him explain himself.
I think he's talking about the 600,000 rand.
But I've already explained, Chair, how that money was received.
Hang on. He's saying he refers to this paragraph, and in particular, he refers to that last sentence, which says, I unequivocally tender to the Commission without the necessity for any summons to provide my banking details and those of my wife or any other information that the Commission may require of me to substantiate the fact that I received no money whatsoever from the aforesaid project or at all. I think what he wants to say, and maybe I'm wrong, but let me put this to you.
It is in that context, Chair.
Yeah, hang on. Let me finish. I'll give you a
Chair,
chance.
ask
I'll
the
give you a chance.
Okay.
The 600,000 rand that you instructed Mr. Sodi to pay to SMD, do you relate it to the asbestos project or not?
Not at all.
You don't?
Not at all, Chair.
Okay. But do you accept that the payment of that amount was to your benefit Now, I'm raising that deliberately because earlier on, Mr. Pretoria said, can discuss later because maybe you would say, no, it's not a benefit. But I want to put this to you. If somebody pays back money that they owe you, is that not a good thing for you that your money is back?
Chair, when you run a business, for your monies to be paid to you that are owed to you, you use different methodologies.
Yes, but when people don't pay back...
Amongst of those is to use the banking systems, which I have also alluded to. We have used with a machine inside the business.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure. I mean, we might be talking at cross purposes. I'm just testing our understanding of benefit in this context. So I would be inclined to think that the 600,000 rand that was paid by Mr. Sodi to you was to your benefit. Simply because when somebody who owes you doesn't pay back what they owe you, that's prejudicial to you. But when they pay back, that must be good for you. And therefore, I'm thinking to say that it's for your benefit, it's fine. Leave out the question of whether it was from the project or from what, but just say somebody pays back money that they owe you, it's to your benefit. You agree?
Yes, I agree, Chair.
Okay, all right. Mr. Pretorius?
But the point I was making, Chair, which is the reference that is being made to my affidavit.
Yes.
It's in relation to the spreadsheet.
To the spreadsheet. No.
Which is the issue, Chair, that I think earlier on,
yes,
you deliberated on with the senior council.
Yes,
because that is where we are today.
Yeah.
Because of that spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And I would like to say to this commission, Chair.
Yeah.
I'm not a beneficiary of that spreadsheet.
Yes.
I would like to state it as I did it on my affidavit.
Yes.
I am not. That's why I had an interest to talk to Mr. Dugwana myself to get a sense why did he concluded on that. But I was further hoping that when investigations are happening, this point will come out clear.
Yes. Okay.
Let me make it clear, and this is why your issue with Mr. Dukwana isn't directly relevant to today's proceedings, Mr. Zulu, is that we are not putting to you that you are the recipient of 10 million rand from the asbestos project. It's not being put. What is being put to you is something entirely different. I'd like to make one more point, which is the point I wanted to get to.
But with all due respect, Chair, with all due respect, Chair, it cannot be that today I'm sitting here because of that allegation made by Mr. Dugwana. And when I'm here today, I'm told that's not why I wouldn't be here today if it was not for the statement made by Mr. Dugwana in that affidavit.
Well, you would be here for the 600,000 rand.
Mr. Zulu, you are here because of the investigations that have been done by the Commission, which have been put to you today. That is why you are here. You are not here to answer to an allegation made by Mr. Dukwana.
I'll respect your position. I wouldn't like to argue further.
Yes.
I'll respect your position.
Yes. No, that's fine. But you are not being suppressed from expressing what you feel. But as you say, between counsel in the morning and myself, your counsel and Mr. Pretorius made certain undertakings, which he, I think, seeks to keep. But I think you have made it clear that to the extent that Mr. Dugwana may have linked you to any benefit in the spreadsheet, that you are denying any such link that you have made clear.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
The further point that I want to put to you is, had you given all your bank accounts and those of your wife to the investigators, they would not have picked up this payment to SMD.
Chair, I don't want to sound repetitive. I offered.
Yeah.
I was not asked.
Yeah. No, I think you make a legitimate point, Mr. Zulu, about the fact that you offered to cooperate, and if the investigators did not ask you, that must be noted.
In paragraph 8 of your statement, or your first affidavit at page 154 of FS1, you say, I would have expected the Commission to have investigated my bank accounts by virtue of the subpoena powers or summons powers that they have at their disposal. Had they done that, they wouldn't have picked up the payment to SMD Motors. Correct?
Correct.
So what, by summary, we have established then is that you played some role as an official in the establishment of the asbestos scheme.
Sorry, just repeat the first sentence. I played what?
You played some role in
Can you
your
define-
official
can you-
capacity in the establishment of the scheme.
Accounting role.
Accounting role, yes.
Thank you. At least let's qualify it.
Official role.
Yes,
in your
okay.
official capacity.
Okay.
Let's stress that. I'm happy
All right.
to stress that.
Okay.
In the what became ultimately the asbestos scheme. Huh? You did receive money from Mr. Sodi. You've explained it as to why you've received it. Correct?
Correct.
The initials TZ appear frequently in these transactions. Correct?
Correct. I'm not sure about frequently though, Chair.
Don't worry, we'll deal with that in due course, with other witnesses, perhaps.
Okay.
You certainly haven't shied away, at least in these proceedings, from your initials, Mr. Zulu.
Yes.
We don't have further questions.
I've said to you, Mr. Zulu, that note must be taken of the fact that you did offer your cooperation.
Thank you, Chair.
And as I said just a few minutes ago, if the investigators did not come to you and ask you questions, note must be taken of that.
Thank you, Chair.
But isn't the fact that they did ask you about this 600,000 rand,
Correct, Chair.
is that not a fact?
It's a fact, Chair, and I responded.
Is it not a fact that you did respond to that question?
I did, Chair.
Yes. You had an opportunity to tell them more about this transaction if you wanted to, but you didn't, and they didn't ask you further questions. Is that right?
Chair, I think if I may comment on that.
Yes.
I think there has been a communication gap I picked up
I think you may be right about that.
between the investigators
Yes.
and my legal team,
Yes.
which affected negatively
Yes.
the work of the investigators
Yes.
together with myself.
Yes.
As a result of that, I cannot say
Yes.
I had that opportunity
Yes.
up
okay,
until I had to
okay,
respond in writing.
Okay. No.
If you read all the documents, you'll see the gaps that have been happening in communication, and then there are breaks
Yes.
at times of almost 5 months.
Yeah.
And then I'm caught between
Yes.
my legal team
Yes.
and the investigators.
Yes.
And I couldn't go directly to investigators when there are protocols that have been established
Yes.
within
Yes.
which one wanted to respect.
Yes. Yeah.
I think, Chair, when you read those communications,
Yeah.
you'll see that has also contributed
Yes.
to some extent
Yes.
negatively in making
Yes.
sure that opportunity is used.
Yes.
That's
No,
a comment I will make, Chair, but you'll see it in all correspondences. That has been the
Yes.
mishap.
No, I think you may be right that the communication may not have been the best at all times, and maybe partly because of that, certain things might not have happened the way they should have. I'm not sure. I just wanted to make the point to acknowledge that certainly they did put the question to you, and you answered. It may be that they should have followed up, but it may be that from your side too, you should have said, here is more to clarify this or whatever. But it may be that, as you put it, there was a challenge with the communication, and that resulted in the situation.
And Chair, I want to assure you, in
Yeah.
my personal capacity, that I've never had an option of not working with the Commission.
Yes, okay.
I've always made it a point in all my affidavits, both of them,
Yes,
that
yes,
at any given moment,
Yes.
I'm here to work and cooperate
yes,
with the Commission, and I'd like to state it on record.
yes,
That commitment remains.
remains. Yes. No,
Well-
thank you very much.
I've just been passed a note which perhaps contains a question I should ask, but I think it's clear already. But before we go there, any further information that you had in relation to the 600,000 rand, you could have volunteered. Correct. You could have, that you wanted
This
to.
is the point, Chair. Again, we're going back to the
About the gap in
protocols.
communication.
This is the protocols I'm talking about, Mr.
Yes.
Pretorius. That we had different lines of communication. And each time investigators will come to me, I'll speak to them, and then I'll ask them, do we start a new process? Should I deal with you directly, or you want to go through via my legal team? And then they will agree they'll go via my legal team. Then there will be a breakdown of communication. Then I'll continue with life. So, honestly speaking, Mr. Pretorius, the information that investigators may have wanted exactly the same way that you have requested it would have been provided to them. You can talk to Etienne. I will speak to him. I will commit myself. I will respond to him via email myself. I won't even refer him to my lawyers. I will do it myself. So it's unfortunate, Chair, that
Yes.
those protocols,
Yes.
for me, at some point I even ask him, how does this work? Because I can't break protocol with my legal team. At the same time, he's coming to me directly, and I'll commit myself. So there was that challenge, but that was not a sense of no cooperation from my
Zulu,
side.
we'll be very quick. If you would just hear the question, maybe I could put it again to be clear. Regardless of what the investigators did or didn't do, it was within your power and capacity to volunteer the information in
Yes.
regard to the 600,000 rand. Correct?
Correct, via the legal team.
Yes. All right.
Via
And
the legal team,
What is
which was-
interesting
Yes.
is that it was only after the investigators had discovered these transactions with SMD Motors that all this came out. It could have come out before, as the chair points out.
But Chair, that's what I was saying, Chairperson. The information about 600,000, it's an
Yeah.
open secret. There was no way I was going to be able to hide that payment. It forms part of the current car that I have, I've declared. So there was no intention whatsoever, Chair. If they've come to me to say, we want the following, even my legal team, I would have volunteered the information because it's in the public domain. I don't know whether you hear what I'm saying, Chair. The
That's
financial
the point,
institution,
Mr.
when it
Zulu.
gets there,
It's not in the public domain, nor is it in your bank accounts, nor is it in your records.
Chair, it is in the financial statement of my car that
Okay,
an amount of 600,000 rand was paid. It is available.
It
It's
was
there.
paid by Saudi.
Exactly, Chair. So,
Yeah.
so you can't hide it.
Yes.
That's the point I'm trying to make, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Is that it, Mr. Joyce? Mr. Zulu, thank you very much for coming to give evidence, and thank you very much for recommitting yourself to assisting the commission,
Thank you,
and
Chair.
even personally dealing with the investigators for any further information that relates to this amount or any other thing that you may think is relevant or they may pick up.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Chair. I did receive a note, and it's not worth my while to ignore it from the team. When did your relationship and friendship with Mr. Sodi begin? What year? Can you remember?
I can't remember exactly, but
Was it before 2014?
yes. Correct.
Yes. Okay. No. And maybe I can ask this. I know I was also. I had started to thank you so that you can be excused. Your relationship with him, that Mr. Sodi, is it on the basis of him being a friend or not really?
He's been a customer for my business.
Yes, okay.
Correct.
And Mr.
Obviously,
Nduli,
in the process, when
Yeah,
you have
and
a
Mr.
customer
Nduli
like
is
that,
also
we
just a
develop a
customer.
friendship, yes.
and Mr. Nduli also is not a friend, he was just a customer.
Just an associate that visited.
An
my-
associate.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Mr. Zulu, for coming to assist the commission. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Chair.
The investigators will communicate in order so that we can get whatever documentation is relevant.
Thank you,
Thank you
Chair.
very much. You are excused.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Pretorius.
Thank you. Mr. Pretorius, you talked about the other witness being excused, or what is the position?
Chair, it would be best if we began tomorrow, if we may.
Yes,
We will attempt to finish 2 witnesses tomorrow.
yes.
I don't
Is it-
envisage, well, who can say, I don't envisage any interlocutory rule.
Yes, do we need to start a little earlier than normal? Or
No,
not really?
no, Chair.
Okay, all right. Okay, we are going to adjourn then until tomorrow morning at 10. We adjourn.